everybody. So this is video. It's a guy. His name's Warren Smith. He's got a YouTube channel called Secret Scholarly Society. Anyways, yeah, it's a pretty cool channel. Like, I would say, like, he's kind of taken the place of Ben Shapiro. Um, like, less wimpy, less, you know, I don't even know how to describe it. Like, less wimp energy and like more. I would say he's like more on the like, hey, let's talk about things from like a mature philosophical standpoint, not like some like armchair, you know, person who like throws around little quips like, oh, facts don't care about your feelings and all this like nerdy stuff, trying to pretend to be like a pseudo tough guy, Um, it's I don't know. Ben Shapiro's energy has kind of been more like the pastor at the church that tells you, oh, don't be greedy, and then he's driving a Corvette. Like uh, he's got that sort of energy. But this guy seems more like down to earth. Definitely more like mature, philosophical. I've been watching his videos, and he's got some like really cool stuff that he talks about and kind of like points out things. It's more common sense sort of way of looking at things, and less of this. I don't even know how you would describe it. Like this weird debate me, bro. Like, oh, I'm a Marxist chud, and my dream utopian society has never been done before, but ignore the hundreds of millions of people that have been killed by famine prior. Just the trust fund kid on Twitch that has this political opinion who's really not politically or historically uh, well educated, um, and that's kind of what I like about this. Is this Warren here? He's actually really well rounded on history and philosophy, and even going as far as to dive into some of the psychology in the thinking in the practice of thinking, um, behind the logic that he's using as like trying to think of how I would describe this, but it's like a way of measuring your logical outcome to something that's actually like practical and not just fantasy bullcrap, um, which a lot of these like communist, like internet communists, seem to be. Like, they seem to be the full of crap kind that, um, you know they've they've just been living off daddy's credit card, and they haven't been really like adding anything other than just parroting like activist nonsense for however long they've been around. But anyways, like, yeah, let's get to the video here.
Takes on Vosh, one of the most articulate leftists. He played the most common game that I see. He tries to claim that, no, critical race theory is not what you're describing. It's actually something very harmless.
A point of clarification, you don't believe that critical race theory is in schools?
I think that maybe there are ideas which overlap with critical race theory, but there's always going to be overlap between academic ideas. I mean, I drank water, so did Hitler, one of those type situations.
Because then
Well, there you go. Foch is Hitler.
you encounter it in the real world, and you're like, wait, how did this get here? And they claim, well, no, it doesn't happen. So what do? It gets very frustrating. And Charlie Kirk here contends with it and exposes this game. You can see it very clearly.
Should we be teaching first and second and third graders to be hyper conscious aware of race all the time? I think that's destructive. I think it goes against the American promise of e pluribus unum, of caring more about character than skin color.
Because critical race
Oh, like, just here, I brought this up because I didn't even know what this means. I mean, this is like I haven't taken a Latin course since like high school. That was like 20 years ago. So e pluribus unum means out of many one, and it's essentially what it is it's the unofficial original motto of the United States. So if you're not aware, there you go. There's that info because I didn't know either, so I had to look it up.
Theory is indefensible. What Vosh does is the most common tactic. He tries to make critical race theory sound like something else entirely, something harmless.
And to this day, we still have some problems with race. There are some legacies of slavery that still affect black people, and we're working on it today. Something like that. That's a kind of racialization that I'm in favor of because it doesn't encourage stereotyping, it doesn't encourage discrimination, it just encourages a base awareness of some serious problems.
This is what
So, like, in other words, talking down to people and victimizing them and then making them reliant on a system that really hasn't done them any favors whatsoever and is, if anything, is pulled them back into poverty, um, making their entire social structure and social economic I don't even know what you would say, like just their presence on the social economic ladder is it's in the tank, and it has been for you know, couldn't even tell you. I mean, it's been so long. I'd have to go look up the numbers, but yeah, I mean that's really what this is coming down to, is just let's talk down to people based on their skin color, and then try to hide this nonsense behind like some sort of like pretend merit program so we can pretend to help people, which I mean it never does, right? Like every program I've ever looked at, it's like predominantly white women who are like the recipients of whatever it is that they're um, picking up, like because they're usually the ones that are like initiating these programs on some level. So like that's where that comes from.
you run into in graduate school, people that speak like this. They will claim, no, what you're describing is not actually critical race theory. They make it sound like something that's actually harmless and reasonable.
But that's not happening, right? Is that largely what we're seeing through school districts like Chicago and in Washington, D.C., and the entire California school system, representing 10,000 schools and 6 million students.
I've seen the documents on those.
Yeah, is that
Yeah, see, I mean, he even knows. I mean, he's admitting it right out, right? Like, he knows the numbers. He's talked about it before. He's talked about these programs. He's gone over them over and over and over on his weird commie LARP thing on Twitch, and like, what like, this is the thing. It's like, how do you know all of these things and then you're still looking at it like, oh, we can do something with this, like and not realizing as well, like, I mean, how much harm this has caused to all of the supposed communities that you're trying to help.
it doesn't have that kind of nuance and complexity that you just presented, right?
This is where it gets interesting, because watch what Vosh does here.
Cole Hannah-Jones in particular, right, the author of the 1619 Project, she heretically says that America was founded on slavery, right? And so
I'd
part
be
of
okay with that.
I would be okay with that, he said. America was founded on slavery. Racism existed when America was founded, but that framework created by the Founding Fathers is what led to the eradication of slavery.
but it's just not true.
It depends on what you mean by founded
So
on.
this is, she defines this. She says the founding fathers were in favor of it. Not true. George Washington wasn't. John Adams wasn't. John Quincy Adams wasn't. Thomas Jefferson even signed a moratorium on new slaves coming into the United States. Ben Franklin chaired an anti-slavery convention in 1775. None of these guys were writing expositionally how wonderful slavery.
Well, this isn't being taught to third graders, right? The 1619 Project's a little New York op-ed. It's
And there it is. No, the 1692 Project is just this little harmless outlet.
no, it's not.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's kind of like what he's saying right there. Like, it's this harmless little outlet. It's not a harmless outlet. It's propaganda that was put out there to downplay, like the way that America was founded, and try to pawn it off as some evil source of slavery and everything wrong in the world, which, I mean, funny enough, I mean, it's like, if you, this is not to say like America hasn't done like not bad things, but like just, I mean, it's like saying the road to hell is paved with good intentions, right? Like there's been bad intentions, and then there's, the good intentions that lead to bad outcomes, and it's easy to talk about it in hindsight and act like we could have done something completely different and better and yada yada yada. But I think that's kind of the point of history, right? Is this is something that we can look back on and learn for ourselves and say, well, hey, maybe we don't do that anymore going forward, and we take our time and we make sure that the programs or the social safety nets that we're putting out there, they're all working as intended and not just another net of oppression that is effectively stealing money from the class that's out working hard, putting food on the table, trying to provide for their family. And we're essentially turning our system into a economic drain on them, because I mean they're the workhorses of our society, right? Like why would you want to punish them so much that it makes them living their life almost impossible? You know what I mean?
See, that's where you're wrong. The 1619 project's being implemented as school district curriculum in thousands of school districts across the country.
That's
seen-
true.
well,
Across the country.
It's not just like a podcast. This is curriculum.
Right, there are principles of the 1619 project that I think are defensible. First of all, we as Americans tend to think of the founding of our country as its legal founding, But the legal founding of the United States didn't really mean much for a slave. I mean, it really didn't matter that much for the peasantry of the time, no matter what.
See, that's where I disagree. Because so when was the first state to abolish slavery? Vermont in 1777. Why?
Well, I mean, for the
because they
slaves
were
who lived
inspired
in-
by the Declaration of Independence. Things started to change in that year,
Right, but the slaves that then continued to be slaves would have been in the states that didn't make that choice, right?
which
I mean,
were
they would have
largely
been-
in southern states.
Yeah. Well, that's what I mean. I didn't mean to miss out on the particulars there.
The sovereign individual, life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness.
No, see, I mean, this is the thing is, I mean, and I've watched him do this many times before. Vosh, he's this dude's such a snake, man. Like, it's actually kind of funny. So the thing is he's not. He realized he pivoted himself into checkmate, and now he's tried to like double back and pivot his way out of it, because he knows if he were to keep going down that road, like it's a 90-10 issue, right? Like 90% are going to be against him, and then that's going to taint the concept of his special flavor of communism that definitely won't kill hundreds of millions of people this time.
Happiness, that you hold these truths to be self-evident, this appeal to God, an innovation which the rest of the world later followed suit.
The only point that I'm making is that depending on whose lineage you follow, depending on the narrative that you tell, this is a very postmodern idea. And I would like to consider myself charitable to postmodernism, the idea that there are many ways you can describe the human experience.
And this is the manipulation that is so frustrating. Charlie does a great job of exposing it.
Are you concerned when certain judges or people running for DA say that accommodations on sentencing should be made on race? Does that bother you?
Who said that? I've never heard that before.
He's going to claim that's not really happening because that's the only thing he can do. These
Yeah, I mean, it's exactly like he just said. I mean, it's this game of trying to gaslight and pretend like, oh yeah, like no, this isn't really what's happening, but it is.
ideologies are mainstream.
Well, people in law schools have been saying it.
Well, I mean, students have always
Kim
been.
Fox in Chicago has heavily implied that communities of color need to be accommodated for in sentencing. And they've all but done this by just getting rid of the bail laws that we've seen. altogether,
Well,
right?
I mean-
Decriminalizing shoplifting, all that. Please.
Oh, I'm totally okay with that. We
Okay.
lock way too many people up.
Yes, you heard that right. So you can just take things from stores now, and it's not a crime. How could that go wrong? And he does the same thing when Charlie brings up defunding the police.
And crime is down.
Again, like, this is the thing with trust fund babies, right? Like, they think, yeah, just throw all the criminals on the street and, everything will be A-okay. Don't worry about the guy that just robbed the gas station at gunpoint. We'll put him in your neighborhood and, he won't be oppressed and turned into a prison slave, and he'll be able to turn his act around and provide meaningful help to his family, which they never do, and end up back in prison. And now you end up where you're at today, where judges are just tired, and they're tired of seeing the same faces in their courtroom over and over and over. So what do? Now when you come in to rob a gas station, you get to spend life in prison. Like, that's you get to go into the box, and that's where you're going to live forever, because we don't want to see you back in court.
Since the 90s. We've had a bit of an up since
It's
COVID,
up
but
massive in the last year.
oh well, COVID's led to a lot of really weird exigent factors.
Well,
But
defunding the police.
with all, we haven't defunded the police anywhere.
Minneapolis.
Maybe in a
Wait,
couple
a
places.
lot of places.
Hold on a second.
There-
That's not true. Minneapolis, Portland, Seattle, they've all cut police budgets.
200,
I should be- well-
260 departments, I think it was reported last year, had stripped their funding
Yeah.
from
Sorry,
departments.
when you said defund, I thought I meant like the anarchist vision of like community policing.
We're not talking about
Yeah, it's always the utopian fantasy vision of X thing that I have in my head that nobody else knows about. And the reason I won't define it is because if I have to define it, then I have to defend it. And it's such an indefensible position. I won't, because doing so would basically immediately defeat my own argument.
the anarchist vision of defunding the police. We're talking about the mainstream call on the left to defund the police.
When it comes to police funds being stripped, there is a conversation to be had about the relationship between that and crime, but the crime increase seems to be all countrywide.
Okay. So we're not seeing significant increases in crime in specific parts of the country. Got it. I was just in New York. To go on trigonometry, I was literally pulling into the parking garage. I had not been in the city for more than 5 minutes when a driver got out of the truck in front of me, started swinging on the other driver, and a lady jumps out and maces him.
So I don't know if I'd be leaning more towards that being a COVID thing and people being restless and angry and, I don't know, aggressive.
Notice the tap dancing he's doing here.
Like,
I
how about like
disagree with.
black-only dormitories?
Generally not a fan. I don't think they're like explicitly harmful in the same way that traditional segregation is, but I also think that it incentivizes bad types of socialization.
It's not as harmful as traditional segregation. It is segregation. I'm generally not a fan of it. This is the game. And Vosh even admits this is a tactic used.
And Joy Reid is saying, like, it's not being taught anywhere, Christopher Rufus, so yes, it is, when in reality they're both right. They're just talking about two completely different things. You know what I'm saying?
No,
like,
no, I do. And Christopher Rufo has admitted this is like a kind of tactic. Critical race theory does sound spooky. You know, I get a little shiver when I say it.
You don't really
No, he doesn't. That's a complete lie. He doesn't at all. If anything, I would say it probably excites him. He's a creep like that. Like, he's always been a weirdo, and I mean, it's funny that it's taken this long for like people to like kind of like pick apart his videos, but I mean, there's a reason as well, because Vosh is a disgusting individual. He's talked about it before on his own stuff. I'm not going to go into it, but I mean, the dude's a pervert basically, and that's part of that, right? Like, it's so funny. It's always like the biggest degenerates that have like the stupidest vision for like some weird commie, like, let's all hug trees and live in a commune. Well, you guys do that. I get to live in a mansion, up on the hill, and have like a bat cave, and if you say anything about it, then I'll send people to keep you quiet.
contend with critical race theory. You make up a caricature that's more palatable. You act like you yourself are not in favor of segregated dorms and Critical race theory even sounds spooky to you.
Whereas stuff like anti-racist theory or structural racism maybe compel a little bit more thought when discussed on. It's kind of a moral panic that, in principle, I really disagree with. But if you want to talk, I mean, we can call it wokeism if you want. That's probably a more accurate term.
I will just say, to the point about Christopher Rufo, white supremacist is also used as a catch-all term in the other direction.
If we're talking, I mean, in academia, the term white supremacist is virtually never used.
On your personal YouTube channel, you propagate these ideas full steam. For example, look how he addresses reparations.
Specifically on reparations.
I'm a big fan of structural reparations, not based on race, but rather based on targeting neighborhoods that need it the most.
He just strips.
Yeah, so, but that's the thing is, so who's defining the neighborhood that needs it the most, right? Like this is, it's such a dumb thing. Like he's using a bunch of little weasel words to try to make it seem like he's not gonna like immediately jump on the DEI train. And I mean, and when I talk about DEI, I mean like how it's literally defined by the White House when Joe Biden wrote the DEI bill, not the like whatever. Like everybody likes to kind of like gaslight and talk about like their own little version of DEI or whatever. I'm talking about like the actual policy, and when you look at the actual policy, it's racist. Like by definition, it's a racist policy. It discriminates on skin color, and instead of doing what should be done, which is like handing out things on merit and being like, okay, well, you worked hard for this thing, so you've earned it, right? Instead of rewarding that, what it does is it just sets up like well, you're a victim, so here's a bunch of money, and go cry in the corner and enjoy your free Xbox and food stamps or whatever, right? And what does that do? I mean, it does the same thing. If you want a direct comparison to American welfare, look at the donations that were sent to Africa, like the USAID donations that were sent to Africa. So in Africa, we sent them like because people were starving left, right, and center, and people were just dying all over the place, and there was all these casualties. So of course, like we're like, okay, well, let's do something about that, right? So we send a bunch of planes and we send them a bunch of rice and beans. We've sent these people like enough rice and beans that they can like live for the next 80 years on rice and beans. Well, what did that do? It destroyed the entire rice and bean market. So now in Africa, like the farmers that farm rice and beans can't sell rice and beans because their market's been flooded with American rice and beans. So, I mean, that's the thing. And this is what I was talking about earlier with like the road to hell is paved with good intentions is like, because that's what this is, right? It's we have this idea, this like noble idea of, well, we need to do this thing. And by intervening, what we've done is just like multiplied the problem and made it so much worse than it could ever be, right? So but anyways, like that's my point. Let me here we'll keep going here.
Out the race from it completely and just talks about poverty, which is socioeconomic lens. The problem is that that's not what's actually happening. Critical race theory is not just about the socioeconomic lens, it's about race.
Well, so you're saying not even based on race?
I think that we should recognize that this is largely a racial project, but in terms of applying it, I think that it would be much more healthy if we treated it like a collective effort to bring up the lowest sort of echelon of our economic.
So I want to ask you,
Yes.
Charlie, would you agree with a program that was in how do I describe this? Explained as reparations, but was not based on race, went to people based on class and neighborhood, so that it could help Latinos and white people and Asians and everybody?
Now you're not even talking about critical race theory anymore, and this is how the game is played.
Do I agree that the question is mostly
Yeah, like the waters have been muddied so much now, like and that's kind of the thing. like way back in the day when Tim used to do like debate stuff. Like he kind of he always does this like middle of the road fence sitter thing where like, you know, he tries to play like the moderate or whatever and pretend to be unbiased. But I mean, being biased is natural. Like that's you can't force this like weird juxtaposition where you're going to pretend to be unbiased and clearly you're not, right? Like you have your own baked in biases. So how do you address that? You go in and you do this weird well, I'm just going to muddy the water and well, you know, it's whatever, guys. It's whatever. And then yeah, like then what becomes of the debate is nothing. You're in a position where you still have both sides that disagree, right? And they're never going to see eye to eye. They're never going to agree, no matter how hard you're pushing them to agree. And the reason is because you've effectively like you've tried to make like some sort of like weird condolence in the debate where it's like, oh well, you know, maybe question mark, um, you know, I guess, you know, and you do that without declaring like an obvious winner. And the reason is because as much as like people like Tim Pool will say that being called like a bigot or a racist or whatever doesn't affect them, it does. And like cancel culture scares him, obviously. So basically, like you're just in this weird position where it's like, well, we're going to say the moderate thing, the fence sitter, middle position because we don't want to offend anybody, and by not offending anybody, we've declared no victory for anyone, and now we all just go our separate ways and pretend like we're better for having this conversation, which, you know, is complete bullshit.
Class? Oh, absolutely. And I think that Vaush is hitting on something, and I think that you're saying that it's inherently racial. I really want to explore that with you because I think that's interesting. I think you're wrong, but I think that's interesting, where I think the racial thing is actually being used to distract people like you and I from actually talking about what's really happening here, which is a small group of people getting a lot richer while normal people get poor.
So it does get difficult to call these things out when your opponents make the very thing you're trying to contend with impossible to identify.
Yeah, and this is exactly what I was saying earlier, right? Like this is why everything is like socioeconomically kind of shitty for the people that we like supposedly say that we're trying to help, but we're not, because we're not giving them the means to help themselves. We're just tossing a bunch of money at them through welfare and hoping that they'll, you know, put their big boy pants on and go out there and, you know, change their ways and not act stupid or commit crimes or whatever. And all you've done is effectively like stolen money from productive people and then given it to people who, uh, you know, will put it towards crime culture, and then crime culture being like drugs, you know, sitting around smoking weed all day, you know, playing games on your stolen Xbox, and you know, going on the occasional GTA spree, and robbing the local liquor store, and you know, whenever you get caught, you just say, you know, oh well, you know, it's for my mom. You know, she's such a hard worker. She sits around all day in her recliner collecting welfare checks to keep us fed. So, you know, I just, you know, we're trying to put a little extra mac and cheese on the table. So, yeah, you know, which obviously it's not working, right? So,
They make it invisible.
The consequences of slavery and of second-class citizenship for black people left unaddressed, a wound left to fester that unfortunately can't really heal itself inertially unless we do something specific.
So,
And this is what exposes the game. He has not landed a single blow on Charlie. Charlie has not conceded an inch of ground here.
yeah, I mean, all he's done is pivot the whole time. Like, and he's been on the defense. He knows he can't defend his own positions, so he just makes shit up and pivots to some bullshit that nobody else is talking about, and then he tries to gaslight them into like, oh yeah, this is part of the conversation, when it's not.
Vosh has. He's just very good at making it look like nothing is happening.
Yeah, so I mean, there you go. Like, and that's the thing. It's like it's all just like, hey, let's obfuscate what we're talking about and create this like pseudo intellectual argument about why my idea of like communism or whatever is gonna save society or whatever, and it never does. It's all bullshit. That, and that's the funny thing. Like, you want to talk about a real trend? Let's talk about this trend. Go look up your favorite not VTuber, Twitch streamer, right? Go look them up. Go look them up and go see how much they were worth before they got into the game, right? Like, did they have rich parents? Yada yada yada. I've never seen a broke communist on Twitch streaming, and usually if they are, it's like some sort of like grifter who's they're what do you call them, quote unquote orbiters, of Hassan, like, which is ironic because some of them weigh like enough that they could be like planetary, I guess, in orbit around Hassan, or whatever. uh but it's ridiculous. This is all, it's stupid. It's all BS. These people don't have answers. They kind of pretend to have answers. They pretend to know what they're talking about, but none of these people do. Like, they have no education. They just have daddy's money, and they just pretend like, oh yeah, I know what to do. We'll create a society where you, the peasants, have rights, um, but they're not really rights. They're just pretend rights, and you're gonna work at the factory that we tell you to, and you're gonna like your job whether you like it or not. And even if you don't, doesn't really matter because it's for the greater good, right? Like, and that's when, like, it's so funny. Like, I see all these people today, like, taking trips to Cuba. Like, okay, brother, you're tell me you're a larper without telling me you're a larper, right? Like, you're going to Cuba as a communist and like pretending to be the savior, like you know what's going on, uh, using the same system that is like widely oppressed these people for who knows how long. I mean, it's I mean, surely since like the Cuban Missile Crisis, right? Like, at the very least, right? Um, so, and these people were out there like living without power, without food, cut off from the rest of the world, and it's like you're an island nation, you know, and you're kind of screwed because, you know, you need food, you need energy, you need water, right? Like, and if you keep pushing away everybody, um, and stepping on all the wrong feet and doing things like keeping political prisoners and jailing people and all this stuff for thought crimes and whatever, because they said something against the establishment that you didn't like. Well, eventually it's not going to go well for you. You know what I mean? So that's just it. It's like all these people, they don't really know what they're talking about. They go there, they play the games, they pretend, but they don't. And the second anything real happens, like, they'll be on the first flight out of there, right? Like, the second it gets like even like slightly scary or violent, like for them, they'll be on the first flight out, running with a tail between their legs. um, because it's just that's their character, that's who they are. They're just rich boys with daddy's money, you know running around larping, pretending to be some sort of freedom fighter. So, anyways, well, I'm gonna leave the video here. Y'all have a great day, and hopefully we'll see you in the next one.
How do you